now have insiders, and this is great to see how very few people but can really leverage, because they know the company by heart, they can very leverage the various assets of the company. And we are now entering a phase where we are seeing how some of the social entrepreneurs or their innovations could be accelerated by work together. So what is really important, I think, today is really to identify several opportunities, topics that we would like to work on together. So this is what we mainly wanted to explain to you and to share with you. I think that we need to go into very concrete example between SAP, and maybe you want to introduce Anka?
Yes, so Anka, if you want to come and share your testimony, so Anka is the global head for diversity at SAP. SAP has announced recently a partnership with Specialistern. That's an organization working on with autistic people. And so she will tell us a little bit about how the partnership started and how this co-creation has been brought to life, and also what's the future of the partnership.
So, what do you want? Just here? Perfect. Yeah, so I would like to go a little bit back, because when did it all start? The entire project is called Praya, and it started about 2 years ago in India. And some of our employees started to work with children with autism. And they did not only start to work with the children, but also with the teachers and the parents. And what they did was they started to use technology. And in this case, it was iPads to communicate, but also to help them, so to help the children with autism to communicate with their parents and so on. That was the first step, and we realized, wow, there's a very natural fit with technology and people with autism. And we took it to the second step, and that was that we started to work with the Society of Autism in India, and we offered education for people with autism on a very regular basis. And at the same time, what we did was we sat down with people with autism, so our developers sat down and started to develop apps with people with autism, but also for people with autism. So it's called, for example, BOL, which helps people with autism to communicate, to improve their communication skills, to learn to speak, and to learn to articulate better. And again, we learned, wow, very special fit we have there. So we started to employ people with autism in the testing. In Bangalore, we have a big facility with about 5,000 people working there, and we do have a testing in there. So that means the testing for software, but also a quality insurance. And we employed 6 people with autism in the testing. A couple things that we learned, what was very interesting for us, is that people with autism have a very, very long period where they can concentrate on repetitive things, which is sometimes very hard for other people to do. But not only that, we saw also that the culture in that team changed quite drastically. So people with autism don't understand sarcasm. They always speak the truth. And they need a very clear and precise communication style. So they don't understand what you're trying to say between the lines. So in case in the morning, if somebody would come in late, and as a manager, you would say, wow, you had a good sleep. This person would look at you and would say, yes, I did have a good sleep, or no, I did not sleep well, but did not get the underlying message that you were late for work. So what we realized, let me just put this here. What we realized in that team was the termination period, the termination percentage went down. And termination is a big issue that we have had in India for a long time. The other thing was that employee engagement went drastically up. And that we got a lot of very, very positive feedback for people who had worked for a long time with SAP, because they started to really buddy with people with autism. But they also said there's a different kind of meaning for my work and a different kind of purposeful work I'm doing now. So I was there last year. It was exactly on the 14th of June, so it was about a year ago. And I was at the Autistic Society because I was giving out diplomas to the children who had gone through the education program. And then I talked to the developers and we said, wow, we should learn from this and we should take this as a best practice and really roll it out all over SAP. Now, SAP is a software company. We have worldwide about 65,000 people, and we are in 120 countries. We are not experts in the area of autism. So we were looking for a strong partner. And what we did last year was we hosted an event in India. It was in all the papers in India. It was not on our grounds. That was very, very important for us. We just hosted it, and we invited people, external speakers, who were experts in regards to autism, the society, but also other people. And one of these speakers was Torkild Sonne, the CEO and the founder of Specialisterna. Torkild himself is a father of a child who is autistic. Torkild used to work in the IT companies. And when his son was diagnosed to be autistic, he gave up his job and he founded this organization called Specialisterna. And the goal for Specialisterna is to create 1 million jobs for people with autism. So that's how we got to know Torkild. And then we said, well, if we want to take what we are learning in India on a bigger approach, we really need a strong partner who understands what he's talking about. And I think there's also one very, very important to think about it. And I think, Stephanie, you had it in there, and I put it down. It's vulnerable populations. And that's very risky for us in corporate world when we say we want to work with people with autism on a bigger scale. Because what you get first is you want to have cheap labor. You want to exploit them. You want them to work longer than 8 or 9 hours or whatever we work. You don't want to pay the same salary. So we needed to also have somebody who's not only an expert, but who was a little bit an advocate for the vulnerable people that you just mentioned. So then Torkild and I sat down, and in May this year, actually, a couple of weeks ago only, we were in America together, and we said, well, we want to really take this to a bigger stage. So we announced a partnership now between SAP and Specialisterna. Our goal is to roll this out this year still in Germany, in Canada, in America. Actually, our teams are right now, while I'm talking here, sitting in Copenhagen together to finish the rollout phase. And we want to have it in all other labs. We have another 12 labs worldwide for SAP, rolled out by 2014. Having announced that, we got the biggest media coverage. We never thought about. Torkild and I were thinking about the project plan. We were thinking about stakeholders. We did the clean project management. We never thought about the media coverage we would get. So we were on 400 articles and news. It was amazing. We looked at each other and we were not quite sure if we really liked that so much, because there's quite a lot of responsibility in it. But we got also a lot of very positive feedback from people with autism, organizations who just thanked, because they said, well, there's a lot of awareness now, and we can make it a lot more public, and all these limiting beliefs that are out there, we can work on. So there was quite a big of impact. So what we are doing now, the next steps is, and what is the role of Specialisterna? Specialisterna has for us right now 3 roles. One is a consulting role. What's the best way to do it? Also, where is it the best way to employ people with autism? Because they do have, the expertise and the knowledge and the experience to help us with that. The second one is Specialisterna is doing for us the recruitment process. And that's very, very important. And now we're going to talk in the late afternoon again about recruitment. But I have been in HR, an HR professional for about 20 years. I used to work for companies like GE, TRW, and now SAP. And if I did an interview, there were 2 things I was looking for. One is be somebody who's real strong in communication and a team player. Now, if I would recruit right now for people with autism, that would not be good, because that's what I was more trained in. And I understand where my strengths are. Now, Torkild and Specialisterna is looking very differently, because we looked at what do we really need. And we probably don't need this for the kinds of positions that we want to fill. So Specialisterna is not only a consultant for us, they are also doing all the recruitment, they are also doing the assessment centers, And they also do the pre-work, you know, the workshops to prepare people who have not been employed for a long time to be really able to go into corporate world. And the third one is they are also the voice of the vulnerable people. You know, this independent third party where we want to ensure that we absolutely keep this kind of differentiation, what do you call it, the separation between the two companies to really ensure that. And we get a lot of positive feedback. Also from our employees, we have a lot of people, parents who are actually parents from people with autism, who say this is not only great, but how can we help? And what can we do? And I think we are really going to take it to the next stage. It's an interesting journey. This is going to be one part of what we want to do with people with autism. The other thing is we are an IT company, so we are right now creating a platform where we get the experts to communicate together, you know, just to link them together. We already got new linkages there. We will do more on that. And we will start as the next phase also to develop together. Because, you know, people with autism have a different way of thinking a lot of times and are very innovative. So that's something I hope that we will take also in the next step.